Good morning from Washington Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C., or in Virginia, but got something very fun planned today. I'm very excited about it.
On the itinerary for today, a simple trip up to Boston on American Eagle's E-175 in first class, and then the return trip on Acela's next-gen train right back down to Washington, D.C. Not only will I compare the onboard experience, but I'll also be talking about the lounge, the holding areas, and the meals and beverages. The new Admirals Club at the E-Gates at DCA is actually the best airline club that I think I've ever been in. Hot food, coffee, a bar, and plenty of seating as I was here at 4:50 in the morning when the website said the club opened, but it actually opened at 5:15, so keep that in mind if you're going there. Before this trip, I had done a little bit of extensive research on this club, and to say I was blown away was still an understatement. Before too long, it was time to make my way down to my gate, get on board, and get a pre-departure orange juice. And luckily for me, this was one of the first flights that American was testing their new free Wi-Fi on, so that was an added perk. After a relatively quick taxi and a short time to wait for the 3 aircraft in front of us to depart, we were lining up on runway 19 en route to Boston. Now that we're up, let's quickly talk about the seat dimensions on this flight before our service starts. I'm sitting in first class for this flight, and more specifically in seat 2A. On their E-175s, American Eagle's first class seats offer 37 inches of pitch, 20 inches of width, 5 inches of recline, universal and USB-A charging ports, and are arranged in a 1-2 configuration. In my seat, I'm all by myself on the left side of the plane. The tray table pulls out from the right-hand armrest, and with that, our beverage service has started, in which I got my 4th cup of coffee for the day, shortly followed by a bag of mixed nuts.
I'm gonna tell you a story. I'm gonna tell you about my town. I'm gonna tell you a big fat story, baby. It's all about my town. Yeah, down by the river. Down by the banks of the river Charles. That's what's happening, baby. That's where you'll find me, along with lovers,
Oh, my mic died, but we're walking right now after our American Eagle flight to the Boston Silver Line bus. It's going to take us over to South Station so I can hop on that Amtrak Acela Next Gen First Class. Oh, there goes the Silver Line. All right, just missed the bus.
The Amtrak Lounge at Boston South Station was quaint, not as fancy as the American Airlines Admiral Club, but just as much as you'd want before a train ride. Now, I kind of made the mistake of being here way too early, and the lounge is very small, nothing to do, but a great place to grab my fifth cup of coffee on the day. After writing a couple of videos and working on a couple thumbnails, before I knew it, it was almost time to get on board the Acela. Hello everybody, I'm editing this video right now and I want to make something clear before I get on this train. I'm not a fan of trains in general, so I figured this would be a good way to see if I actually really enjoyed the experience on the train. And I did enjoy my time. However, I didn't understand how long I was going to be on this train. It said it on the website, and I think it just slipped to the back of my mind, but I didn't anticipate being on this train for this long, and this trip really dragged on. So if I seem negative at any point in time in this video, I really enjoyed my experiences on the Acela, but it was just a very, very long trip back home for me. With that being said, we were soon pulling out of Boston South Station, and the attendants brought around a Fiji bottle of water as our, well, kind of pre-departure in the middle of departure beverage. If you can tell, before I took this trip, a couple days before, the Northeast was hit with a snowstorm. Now, this is not Storm Fern. I actually took a trip recently after Storm Fern and almost had that mess up, so stay tuned for that video, but this was the predecessor to Winter Storm Fern. The Northeast Corridor was just layered with snow until you get to Washington, D.C., and shortly after we left the station and got our pre-departure beverages, the attendants, Tom and Ash, brought our menus around. I opted for the Korean barbecue short rib with the rice and the roll, and it was very good. The rice was a little hard, but the beef was tender and the bread was soft. I even got my patented bottle of Coke or can of Coke that I always seem to get when I'm on my trip, even though I am trying to cut down on my soda intake a little bit. It seemed like it took forever to get through New England. Now granted, there wasn't much to see, but when I saw the control tower at LaGuardia's airport, I got very excited even though I was just only about halfway done with my journey. Nearly every single person got off the train when we got to New York's Penn Station, and the two other people that didn't get off the train actually just got off in Newark. So I was the only one in the first class cabin that actually rode the entire train from Boston to Washington, D.C. Now let's talk about this train's seats for a minute. The Acela's next-gen first-class cabin is in a 1-2 seat layout configuration. Each first-class seat gets you 23 inches of width, 42 inches of pitch, and there's no definitive set amount of recline because the seat cushions actually slide forward instead of the seat backs reclining to give you that extra space. Now, I'm not sure what it was, but the trip from New York to Washington, D.C. took significantly less longer than the trip from Boston to New York. Now, I do know that after Newark, this Acela Next Gen train hits its top speed of just about 160 miles per hour. Now, these trains are actually certified to go 210 miles an hour and maybe a little bit even more, but the rail infrastructure in the United States just doesn't support high-speed rail quite like that. Anyway, with what felt like no time since we left New York's Penn Station, we pulled into Washington's Union Station, and this trip was coming to a close. However, we can't finish this video just yet, because we've got to talk about which experience was better. First off, let's talk about the biggest discrepancy between these two trips. The flight was an hour and a half. I was on the train for about 9 hours. Starting with the service, of course, the place where you get the full meal, and I was offered a second but declined because I was not hungry, was obviously the winner. The Acela wins here. Then for the lavs. The plane lav was small. I'm 5'6" and I could barely fit inside of it. The Acela wins here by a large margin. Now let's talk about the seat. The seat on the Acela was bigger, but both cabins were arranged in a 1-2 configuration, so if privacy is important to you, either or could win here. Next, let's talk about the lounges. Now, airline lounges are significantly better than train lounges in any part of the world, and no surprise that American's Admirals Club, in fact, one of the newest Admirals Club in their network, wins here. But last and certainly not least, the timing. Again, I was on the plane for maybe an hour and a half from boarding to deboarding. The train took 9 hours. Now, there were some delays, and the scheduled time for the train was 7 hours and 41 minutes, but sometimes you just have to build in these times because trains aren't as reliable as planes. So, who wins? Well, I like planes, so I'm going to go with American Eagle's first class experience in the ERJ 175. That's not me saying the Acela was bad. It was very fun and I had a great time, but I just think the hour and a half up to Boston is so much more manageable than 9 hours or potentially more, depending on delays, on a train.
And we are right back where we started from, Reagan National Airport. Dark, just like we left it this morning at 6:50. Oh boy, I gotta drive home, but it was a fun day of travel nonetheless. We got planes, we got trains, we got cars, we got everything. And wow, what a day. What an absolute day. I gotta pay for the metro on the way out, but other than that, we're ready to go. I'm tired. Slept on the train a little bit on the way home, and I'm ready to get in my bed. We gotta get right back to where we started from.